The Christmas lights twinkled mockingly around my parents' living room, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the cold demand that had just been made. Relatives filled every corner of the house. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even Mom's book club friends, all gathered for the annual Morrison family Christmas extravaganza. I stood near the fireplace, eggnog untouched in my hand as my mother repeated her demand louder, ensuring everyone could hear. "Emma, did you hear me? Your brother needs a down payment for a house. We need you to transfer your emergency fund. Tonight." I was 31 years old, a senior software architect at a tech company no one in my family had bothered to learn the name of. To them, I did something with computers, which ranked somewhere below my brother Tyler's job as a car salesman in terms of respectability. Never mind that Tyler was 28 and still living in Mom and Dad's basement while I'd been financially independent since graduation. "That's a significant amount of money, Mom," I said quietly, aware of Aunt Patricia's raised eyebrows and Uncle Joe pausing mid-conversation to listen. "Family is what's significant," Dad interjected from his position by the Christmas tree, where he'd been holding court about his golf game. "Tyler's finally ready to settle down with Madison. They need a proper home, not some apartment." Tyler himself sat on the couch, arm around his girlfriend Madison, looking sheepish but not sheepish enough to actually speak up. He'd perfected the art of letting our parents fight his battles while he reaped the rewards. "How much are we talking about?" I asked, though I already knew this conversation wouldn't end well. 80,000, Mom said as casually as if she were asking me to pass the salt. "You've been saving for years. You don't have a boyfriend, no wedding to plan, no real expenses. This is what family does. We help each other achieve milestones." Cousin Rachel, who'd been scrolling through her phone on the love seat, looked up with wide eyes. $80,000? That's like a lot. "Emma can afford it," Dad said dismissively. "She's always been the responsible one, socking away money instead of actually living life. At least Tyler knows how to enjoy himself." The familiar sting of that backhanded compliment hit exactly as intended. My responsibility had always been code for boring, my financial prudence dismissed as a personality flaw rather than recognized as discipline. "I've been thinking," Mom continued, warming to her subject now that she had an audience, "you should probably just move back home anyway. You're paying rent on that tiny apartment when you could be here saving even more money. Plus, we could really use help with the mortgage." There was the real agenda. They wanted my emergency fund for Tyler's house, and they wanted me back home as a permanent ATM. "Emma pays rent?" Aunt Patricia asked, confused. "I thought you said she still lived at home?" Mom's face flushed slightly. "Well, she has some little place, but it's not practical. Nothing like the house Tyler and Madison are looking at. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a real family home. Granite countertops," Madison added dreamily, speaking for the first time. "And a walk-in closet." I took a slow sip of my eggnog, buying time. Over the past 8 years I'd given my family money countless times. Tyler's business opportunities, that never materialized. Dad's investment opportunities, that somehow always lost money. Mom's emergency medical procedures, that turned out to be elective cosmetic treatments. Each time I'd documented everything, kept every text message, saved every receipt. What they didn't know, what I'd carefully kept hidden, was that the emergency fund they referenced was actually just one small checking account I'd let them know about. My real financial situation was something else entirely. "Let me get this straight," I said carefully. "You want me to empty my savings so Tyler can buy a house while I continue renting?" "It's not like you need a big house," Tyler finally spoke up, his tone slightly defensive. "You're always working anyway. Madison and I want to start a family. We need space." "You need space I should pay for," I clarified. "Don't make this about money," Mom snapped. "This is about being a good sister. A good daughter. Honestly, Emma, sometimes I wonder if we raised you with any family values at all." Uncle Joe shifted uncomfortably. He'd always been the reasonable one in the family, and I could see the skepticism on his face even if he wouldn't voice it at a Christmas party. "You know what?" I said, setting down my eggnog. "I think it's time for some transparency." I walked to the dining room table, moving aside a platter of cookies to make space, and opened my laptop. The room gradually fell silent as people sensed something significant was about to happen. "What are you doing?" Dad asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Providing context, I replied, typing in my password. You want my emergency fund? I think everyone should understand exactly what you're asking for. I pulled up my private banking dashboard, the one linked to Whitmore and Associates, the wealth management firm I'd been working with for 5 years. With a few clicks, I connected my laptop to the smart TV on the wall, the screen mirroring my display. Emma, this is inappropriate, Mom hissed, but she'd frozen in place, perhaps sensing that stopping me now would look worse than letting me continue. The banking summary page filled the 65-inch screen, numbers crisp and undeniable. Whitmore and Associates Private Wealth Management. Client, Emma J. Morrison. Portfolio summary, December 2024. The room went absolutely silent as people processed what they were seeing. Is that? Aunt Patricia leaned forward, squinting. Are those millions? With an M. Total assets under management, $4,247,893.52. I let the number sink in while I calmly navigated to the breakdown page. The emergency fund you're referencing, I said, my voice steady and professional, is this account here. It contains $85,000 and represents approximately 2% of my liquid assets. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Dad had gone pale, his hand gripping the armrest of his chair. How? Tyler's voice cracked. How is this possible? You work in IT. I'm a senior software architect specializing in financial technology systems, I corrected. My base salary is $280,000. With stock options, bonuses, and my consulting work, my annual income typically exceeds $400,000. Madison's eyes had gone as wide as saucers. Cousin Rachel had actually stood up to see the screen better. I clicked to another page, my real estate holdings. I also own 3 properties. The tiny apartment Mom mentioned is actually a 2,000 square foot condo in Riverside Towers that I purchased outright 4 years ago for $650,000. It's currently valued at $890,000. Riverside Towers? Uncle Joe let out a low whistle. Those are the luxury condos downtown. I tried to get a viewing once, couldn't even get past the lobby security. I also own 2 rental properties, I continued. A duplex in the Pearl District and a commercial space in Old Town that houses a coffee shop. Combined rental income is approximately $6,000 monthly. Aunt Patricia was now openly staring at my parents. You didn't know any of this? She never told us, Mom said weakly, but the accusation in her tone had evaporated. You never asked, I replied simply. Every conversation about my career has been met with dismissal. Every attempt to share my successes was interrupted with reminders that I should be more fun like Tyler, or lectures about how money isn't everything. I pulled up another document, one I'd been preparing with my attorney for the past 3 months. This is a complete financial history of my transactions with family members over the past 8 years, I said. The spreadsheet filled the screen, color-coded and meticulously documented. As you can see, I've provided $312,000 to various family members during this time. I watched Dad's face carefully as the categories appeared. Tyler, failed business ventures, $89,000, parents, undisclosed emergencies, $127,000, Tyler, car loans and credit card debt, $43,000, family vacations, $31,000, parents, home repairs, $22,000. Every dollar is documented, I continued. Bank transfers, Venmo transactions, checks. I also have text message records of every request, many of which framed these transfers as loans that would be repaid. Tyler had started to stand, but Madison pulled him back down, her face flushed with embarrassment. Of the $312,000 provided, exactly $0 have been repaid, despite repeated promises, I said. Additionally, I've discovered 3 instances where my identity was used to open credit accounts without my permission. Now wait just a minute, Dad started. I clicked to the next document and his voice died. It was a credit report with highlighted sections showing unauthorized accounts. This MasterCard with a $15,000 balance? Opened in 2019 using my social security number and a forged signature. The billing address is this house. I looked directly at my father. The primary charges are for golf club memberships and equipment. Aunt Patricia actually gasped. This Home Depot credit card with an $8,000 balance? Also opened without my knowledge. The purchases align perfectly with the renovation you did on the basement for Tyler. Those were for family, Mom protested weakly. For all of us. Identity theft is identity theft, Mrs. Morrison. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Kenneth Huang, my attorney, standing in the entrance to the living room. I'd texted him 20 minutes ago when Mom first made her demand, knowing this confrontation was inevitable. Who the hell are you? Dad demanded, finding his voice again. Kenneth Huang, Morrison and Associates law firm, he said, stepping into the room with the confidence of someone who'd done this 100 times before. I'm Ms. Morrison's attorney, and I'm here as a witness to this conversation. You brought a lawyer to Christmas? Tyler asked incredulously. I brought documentation to a financial shakedown, I corrected. There's a difference. Kenneth moved to stand beside me, pulling out his own tablet. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I need to inform you that we've filed a formal complaint with the Federal Trade Commission regarding the unauthorized credit accounts. We've also prepared cease and desist orders preventing any future use of Ms. Morrison's financial information. This is ridiculous, Dad blustered, but the fight had gone out of him. He looked old suddenly and smaller than I'd ever seen him. What's ridiculous, Uncle Joe spoke up, surprising everyone, is that you've been bleeding your daughter dry while treating her like she's a failure. $4 million, Tom. She's got $4 million and you've been making her feel guilty for not giving you more. We didn't know, Mom whispered, tears starting to stream down her face. We thought, she always seemed so plain, so careful with money. We thought she was barely getting by. You thought what you wanted to think, Aunt Patricia said sharply. Emma wore normal clothes and drove a normal car, so you assumed she was struggling. Meanwhile, Tyler's been flashing expensive watches and taking vacations he can't afford, and you celebrated him for living life. The truth of that statement hung in the air like smoke. I pulled up one final document. This is a proposed payment plan for the $312,000 you've taken from me over the years. Kenneth and I have calculated a reasonable monthly repayment schedule over 10 years, including interest at the current prime rate. You can't be serious, Tyler said. That would be like $3,000 a month. Actually, $3,247, Kenneth corrected. Which, coincidentally, is less than half the mortgage payment on the house you want Emma to buy for you. Madison stood up abruptly. Tyler, I think we should go. Madison, wait. Tyler reached for her, but she pulled away. No. This is too much. I didn't know your family was like this. She grabbed her coat from the rack. I can't be part of this. We all watched as she walked out, Tyler scrambling after her, calling her name. The front door slammed, and through the window, we could see them arguing in the driveway, Madison's gestures growing more animated before she got in her car and drove away. Tyler came back inside, his face blotchy and red. Are you happy now? You ruined my relationship. No, I said quietly. Your financial irresponsibility and family's exploitation ruined it. She just found out the truth before she legally tied herself to it. Emma, please, Mom said, and the desperation in her voice almost broke through my resolve. Almost. We're your family. We made mistakes, but we can fix this. You don't need to involve lawyers. You're right, I didn't need to involve lawyers, I agreed. I could have continued letting you drain my accounts, forge my signatures, and treat me like an ATM while making me feel guilty for existing. But I'm done being the family bank. Kenneth handed documents to my parents. These are your copies of the complaint, the cease and desist order, and the proposed repayment agreement. You have 10 days to consult with your own attorney and respond. And if we don't? Dad asked, his voice hollow. Then we proceed with formal legal action, including potential criminal charges for identity theft and fraud, Kenneth replied matter-of-factly. The evidence is quite comprehensive. I closed my laptop and stood. I'm leaving now. I have plans with friends tonight. People who value me for who I am, not what I can provide them. Emma, wait. Aunt Patricia stood as well. I just want to say, I'm proud of you. I had no idea you'd accomplished so much, and I'm sorry if I ever made you feel less than. You deserved better from all of us. I felt tears prick my eyes, the first genuine emotion I'd allowed myself to feel all evening. Thank you, Aunt Patricia. That means more than you know. As I walked toward the door, I heard Uncle Joe's voice behind me. Tom, Barbara, I think you need to take a hard look at how you've treated your daughter. Because from where I'm sitting, you just drove away the best thing in this family. I didn't look back as I left, Kenneth following behind me. The cold December air hit my face like a baptism, clean and sharp and freeing. That went well, Kenneth said mildly as we reached my car. A Tesla Model S I'd purchased 6 months ago but had never driven to family events. Did it? I asked, unlocking the doors. You stood up for yourself, you documented everything, and you didn't back down when they tried to manipulate you. Yes, Ms. Morrison, I'd say that went very well indeed. I slid into the driver's seat and Kenneth leaned down to the window. Merry Christmas, Emma. You gave yourself quite a gift tonight, freedom. As I drove away from my parents' house, I could see the Christmas party breaking up through the rearview mirror. Cars pulling out of the driveway, relatives leaving earlier than usual. The picture-perfect family Christmas had shattered, but maybe it had been broken all along, held together only by my willingness to pretend otherwise. My phone buzzed with a text from my actual friends. The ones waiting for me at a wine bar downtown, the ones who'd celebrated every promotion, every investment success, every milestone without asking what was in it for them. On my way, I texted back. And I have quite a story to tell. 3 weeks later, I sat in Kenneth's office, reviewing the response from my parents' attorney. They'd agreed to the repayment plan, though the letter was full of language about misunderstandings and family dynamics. There was no real apology, no acknowledgement of the pain they'd caused, just legal formality and financial obligation. They'll pay, Kenneth said, but they'll resent you for it. I know, I replied. But at least they'll pay. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Tyler, each voicemail progressively more desperate. Madison had broken up with him permanently, and word had spread through the family about what really happened at Christmas. His car dealership colleagues had found out somehow. Small town, big mouths. And suddenly Tyler Morrison wasn't the golden child with the successful family, but the deadbeat who'd been living off his sister's money. Mom had sent one email which I'd read once and filed away. You've torn this family apart. I hope you're proud of yourself. I wasn't proud. But I wasn't ashamed either. I was free. And that was worth more than all $4 million in my accounts. The city spread out beyond Kenneth's office windows, full of possibilities I'd been too burdened to explore before. Now, unencumbered by guilt and obligation, I could finally see them clearly. My family had given me one gift this Christmas, though not the one they intended. They'd shown me exactly who they were when they thought I had nothing left to give. And I'd shown them exactly who I'd become when they weren't paying attention. Turns out we were all strangers at that Christmas party. I was just the only one honest enough to admit it.